The sun dipped low over the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of crimson and gold. Dust swirled lazily over the small town of Redstone Gulch, a forgotten place tucked between jagged mesas and endless plains. The townsfolk were few, but life here had a rhythm all its own. Horses whinnied, wagon wheels creaked, and the occasional gunshot echoed from the outskirts to eye in the center of town. The Silver Spur Saloon glowed like a beacon. Its swinging doors announced arrivals and departures with a creak that felt like the heartbeat of Redstone Gulch itself. Inside, cowboys nursed whiskey, and the smell of smoke and fried beans filled the air. Among them was Cole Maddox, a rugged gunslinger with a haunted past. His dark eyes, framed by a weathered hat and stubble-lined jaw, surveyed the room with the caution of a man who trusted no one. Cole had been in Redstone Gulch for only a week, and already whispers of his reputation had traveled faster than his own footsteps. "Evenin', stranger," said Bart, the bartender, polishing a glass. His voice had a gravelly edge. "You look like trouble's been your shadow for a long stretch." Cole leaned on the bar. "You could say that," he muttered, taking a slow sip. He didn't offer more. He never did. Secrets were a currency he spent sparingly. That night, a sound of hooves interrupted the familiar rhythm of the saloon. Every eye turned toward the door as a horseman dismounted outside. A woman, her long brown hair blowing in the wind, stepped inside, her boots clicking on the wooden floor. Her eyes, sharp yet soft, scanned the room before resting on Cole. Her name was Lila Hart, the daughter of a local rancher. She was as fiery as she was beautiful, known for her quick wit and even quicker temper. But beneath her confident exterior lay a heart burdened with family expectations and whispered secrets. "Evenin', Miss Hart," Bart said, giving her a nod. "Ain't seen you here in a spell." "I had business elsewhere," she said curtly, her gaze flicking toward Cole once more. There was something in his eyes that stirred curiosity, a mix of danger and vulnerability. Cole noticed her staring. He didn't like being watched, yet something about Lila made him uneasy in a way he hadn't felt in years. A part of him wanted to flee, to disappear into the plains and leave his past behind. But another part, a stubborn, reckless part, wanted to know her story. The night grew thick with tension. Cards were dealt at a nearby table, and a piano played a slow, melancholy tune. Lila approached Cole. "You're new in town," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What brings a man like you to Redstone Gulch?" Cole met her gaze. "Looking for work, maybe trouble, maybe both." She smirked, a flicker of amusement in her eyes. "You look like trouble found you a long time ago." He chuckled softly. "You could say that too." They spoke in circles, neither willing to reveal too much, yet the air between them crackled with unspoken truths. Outside, the wind howled through the canyons, carrying whispers of danger that would soon reach Redstone Gulch. Across town, Sheriff Tom Hayes was inspecting a fresh set of tracks leading toward the outskirts. Rumors had been floating in the saloon all week. The Black Viper gang, notorious outlaws, had been seen near the old Miller Ranch. Hayes had seen Cole's reputation on wanted posters in towns farther west. He wasn't sure if Cole was friend or foe, but he knew this. The Black Vipers didn't wait. Meanwhile, in the shadows of a canyon, a hooded figure watched Redstone Gulch through narrowed eyes. This was Ryder Kane, the feared leader of the Black Viper gang. He had a score to settle, and the arrival of Cole Maddox was no coincidence. Something about the man threatened the secrecy of the gang's hidden cache of stolen gold, a secret that had remained buried for years, back in the saloon. Cole and Lila's conversation deepened. "You ever been in love?" she asked suddenly, her voice softer now. Cole's jaw tightened. "Love's a luxury I can't afford." Her eyes softened. "Maybe you think you can't, but sometimes it finds you whether you're ready or not." He looked at her then, really looked, and for a moment the world outside, the dust, the guns, the outlaws, didn't matter. But that moment was fleeting. A gunshot rang out in the distance, sending a chill through the room. Cole's hand instinctively went to his holster. "That's the Miller Ranch," Bart muttered. "They've been trouble before." Cole didn't wait. Lila grabbed his arm. "Be careful," she warned. The two of them rode out under the dying light of the sun, dust rising behind their horses. Cole's mind raced. He hadn't expected to find danger and a woman in the same night, and yet here they were. When they arrived, the scene was grim. The Miller Ranch had been raided, The barn burned to the ground. A crude message, scorched into the wood, read, "Stay out, or pay the price." Cole's jaw set. Looks like trouble found me after all. Lila's hand brushed against his. A fleeting touch that carried unspoken understanding. This was more than a raid. It was a message, a warning. And it was only the beginning. As night fell over Redstone Gulch. The stars seemed to watch in silence. Cole and Lila rode back to town, both aware that their paths were now intertwined. One was a man running from a past he couldn't forget. The other a woman protecting a secret she barely understood herself. And somewhere in the darkness, Ryder Kane and the Black Viper gang were plotting their next move. The West was harsh, wild, and unforgiving. And in Redstone Gulch, hearts were about to be tested, secrets unraveled, and forbidden love ignited under the relentless sun. Dawn broke over Redstone Gulch like a promise no one trusted. The sky was a pale blue, tinged with pinks and oranges, but the serenity of the morning belied the tension that gripped the town. Cole Maddox and Lila Hart had spent the night poring over the burned remains of the Miller Ranch. The acrid smell of charred wood lingering in the cool air. "They left nothing," Lila said, her voice trembling as she kicked at a blackened beam. "Everything's gone." Cole squatted, examining the scorched ground. "Not everything," he said quietly. He pulled a piece of cloth from the debris, a fragment of a black silk pouch, scorched but still intact. Inside, a few gold coins glimmered in the dawn light. "This tells me they're looking for something. Something valuable. And they won't stop until they find it." Lila's eyes narrowed. "You think it's my father's?" Cole shook his head. "Could be anything, but your family's ranch has always been a target for gangs. They don't just burn barns for fun." Before Lila could respond, the sound of hooves echoed across the dry plain. Cole's hand went to his revolver. From the ridge above, a small group of men appeared, ragged, armed, and moving with purpose. Cole recognized the markings immediately. "The Black Viper gang. They're back," he muttered, rising slowly. Lila grabbed his arm. "We can't fight them here." Cole nodded. "We don't have to." With a sudden, fluid motion, he swung onto his horse. Lila followed, and the two rode hard through the canyon, dust choking their lungs, the gang in hot pursuit. The chase was relentless. Cole led Lila through narrow paths and steep ridges, using every trick he knew from years on the run. The Black Vipers, though ruthless, weren't familiar with this terrain. Cole's knowledge gave them the edge. Finally, they reached a hidden alcove, a small, shadowed canyon known only to a few. Cole pulled his horse to a stop, and they crouched behind rocks, watching as the gang thundered past. "That was close," Lila whispered, her chest heaving. "Too close." Cole gave her a small, wry smile. "We survived. That's what matters." But even as they caught their breath, the weight of danger hung heavy in the air. Redstone Gulch wasn't safe, and the Black Vipers weren't just after the Hart Ranch. They were after something much bigger. Something Cole knew he had to find before it fell into the wrong hands. Back in town, Sheriff Tom Hayes was dealing with the aftermath. Word of the Miller Ranch attack had spread, and the townsfolk were uneasy. Hayes stood outside the sheriff's office, examining the tracks left by the gang. "Cole Maddox," he muttered to himself, eyeing the prints that led toward the town. "I don't know if I trust him, but right now he's the best shot we've got." Cole returned to town later that morning, Lila riding close behind. They didn't speak much. The silence was heavy with unspoken thoughts. Redstone Gulch seemed peaceful, almost eerily so, but both knew danger lurked just beyond the horizon. The Saloon. Cole and Lila shared a quiet moment. The piano played softly, and the scent of coffee mingled with whiskey. "You shouldn't be out there alone," Lila said finally, her voice trembling slightly. "Those men, they'll come back." Cole looked at her, his eyes hard but gentle. "And if they do, we'll be ready." Her hand brushed his. A fleeting touch, charged with tension. Neither moved away. Neither spoke. It was a silent acknowledgement that, despite the danger, a bond had begun to form, a connection neither wanted to admit. Meanwhile, Ryder Kane and the Black Viper gang regrouped in the shadows of a nearby canyon. Kane's eyes were cold, calculating. "Cole Maddox," he muttered, slamming a fist on a table. "He's here, isn't he?" A gang member nodded. "Saw him with a woman, Hart girl. He's clever, boss. But clever ain't enough." Kane leaned back, his face a mask of fury and obsession. No one threatens the viper's gold and walks away. Not in my territory. Back in town, Lila confided in her father, Samuel Hart, about the mysterious gold fragment Cole had found. Samuel's face darkened. That's no ordinary gold, he said quietly. That belonged to my grandfather. During the days before the war, he hid a stash somewhere in the valley. I never told anyone, not even my wife. Lila's eyes widened. You mean? The black vipers are after it. Samuel nodded gravely. It seems your suspicions were right. And now, with Maddox here, we've got a storm coming. That evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Cole and Lila rode out once more, scouting the outskirts of town. They didn't talk much, but the tension between them was electric. Every glance, every brush of hands spoke louder than words. Suddenly, from a ridge above, a rifle cracked. Cole pushed Lila to the ground just as a bullet whistled past. Rocks exploded around them. Stay low. Cole shouted, returning fire. The echo of gunfire rolled across the canyon walls. Cole's aim was precise, his training evident as he picked off two of the gang members. Lila crouched beside him, her eyes wide with fear and awe. Cole, how are you so calm? He glanced at her, a rare, fleeting smile breaking through. Calm's a luxury I've learned to afford only when I have no choice. The fight was brief but brutal. The gang retreated, leaving a trail of dust and smoke behind. Cole and Lila rode back to Redstone Gulch, their horses galloping hard. By the time they returned, the town was silent. The sun had set completely, and the first stars glittered faintly in the sky. Cole and Lila dismounted near the saloon. You saved my life, Lila said softly, looking up at him. And you reminded me there's more worth saving than just myself, Cole replied. His voice low and earnest. It was a moment suspended in time. The kind of moment that promised love but demanded sacrifice. Both of them knew that the black vipers would return, that danger was far from over. And yet, beneath the threat of death and destruction, something tender and forbidden had begun to bloom, a love neither could ignore. Inside the saloon, Sheriff Hayes poured a drink and watched Cole and Lila through the window. If they're together, he muttered to himself, they just might have a chance. But the West doesn't forgive easy. As night swallowed Redstone Gulch, the stars bore silent witness. Hearts were bound, secrets were whispered, and the shadow of the Black Viper gang loomed ever closer. The stage was set. Love had begun. Danger had arrived. And the secrets buried in the valley would soon demand their reckoning. The morning sun rose over Redstone Gulch, washing the town in a pale golden light, but there was no warmth in the air. The town was tense. Rumors of the Black Viper gang's raid on the Miller Ranch had spread, and the townsfolk kept their doors bolted and shutters closed. Horses pawed at dusty streets, and the faint clink of spurs echoed ominously across the wooden sidewalks. Cole Maddox walked steadily through the town, his hat pulled low, revolvers resting lightly on his hips. His eyes scanned every shadow, every alleyway. Danger was never far, and today he had a feeling it would find him sooner rather than later. Cole, Sheriff Tom Hayes called from the porch of the sheriff's office. Word is, Kane's gang is planning something big tonight. Cole nodded grimly. I know, and it's not just a warning this time. They're coming for the gold your Hart girl's family has. Hayes' jaw tightened. If they get it, the whole valley's done for. The town won't stand a chance. Cole didn't reply. There was nothing to say that could make the truth easier to swallow. He had faced outlaws and bloodshed before, but protecting Redstone Gulch and someone he cared about? That was a new kind of risk. Meanwhile, at the Hart Ranch, Lila and her father, Samuel, were packing valuables and documents, preparing for the worst. Samuel's hands trembled as he folded a map of the valley, the location of the hidden gold marked in a faint, almost invisible ink. You've got to stay close to Cole, Samuel said, his voice low and urgent. That man's your best chance of surviving this. Lila's gaze hardened. I don't need saving, father, but I will fight, and I'll fight with him. She mounted her horse with a determination that made Cole's heart clench when he saw her later that afternoon. They rode together through the outskirts of town, a silent understanding binding them. Neither spoke, for words felt insufficient against the storm approaching Redstone Gulch. As evening fell, the town's shadows grew long. Cole stationed himself atop the ridge overlooking the main street, a vantage point that gave him a clear view of any approaching threat. Lila and a few trusted townsfolk prepared barricades. Moving quietly in the fading light, uppy white twilight, the Black Viper gang had arrived. Ryder Kane, their leader, rode at the front with an air of cold menace. His gang, 10 strong and heavily armed, fanned out across the plain. Moving like predators, Cole gritted his teeth. "Tonight, it ends," he muttered. The first shot rang out from the east, shattering the silence. Horses bolted, and townsfolk scrambled behind barrels and walls. Cole fired from his perch, picking off a gang member attempting to breach the northern street. His aim was deadly, each shot precise, each pull of the trigger a promise of defiance. Below, Lila held her ground. Her rifle cracked repeatedly, and despite her fear, her hands were steady. The townsfolk, inspired by her courage, fought with everything they had. But the Black Vipers were relentless. Ryder Kane dismounted, advancing toward the Hart house with 2 of his men. "Where's Maddox?" he snarled. "Tell him Kane wants a chat, or the girl dies." Cole's eyes narrowed. He didn't answer, but he moved, fast, silent, calculated. Using the shadows of the buildings, he approached Kane, catching the outlaw off guard. A tense standoff ensued, 2 guns drawn, eyes locked across the dusty street. "You don't belong here," Kane hissed, his finger brushing the trigger. "I don't belong anywhere anymore," Cole replied coldly. "But I won't let you take what isn't yours." Gunfire erupted. Cole moved with the fluidity of a man who had lived a lifetime on the run. Kane's men fell one by one, the street echoing with shots and screams. Lila covered Cole's flank, her eyes wide but unflinching. Amid the chaos, a fire broke out at the saloon. Flames licked the roof, smoke rising into the starry sky. Cole realized the gang's true plan: to distract, destroy, and force the gold's location from the Hart family. "Lila," he shouted, "get inside the barn. Don't let them take anything." She hesitated for a heartbeat, then ran toward the barn. Cole followed, covering her with relentless gunfire. They worked together seamlessly, a dance of survival and trust, their bond growing stronger under fire. Inside the barn, Samuel Hart handed Cole a small satchel. "This has to be hidden," he said urgently. "If they get this, it's over." Cole nodded. "I'll make sure it doesn't leave Redstone Gulch in their hands." Suddenly, Kane appeared at the doorway, gun raised. Cole fired, and the outlaw went down, but his men weren't finished. Another wave surged into the street, desperate and furious. Cole and Lila fought back to back, moving like shadows. Dust and smoke swirled around them, bullets ricocheting off wooden beams. The night was a blur of danger, adrenaline, and determination. Finally, the Black Vipers retreated, dragging their wounded with them. Redstone Gulch was battered but standing. Cole and Lila emerged from the barn, covered in soot, hearts pounding, and hands brushing once more, a fleeting touch that spoke volumes. You were amazing," Lila said, her voice trembling. Cole shook his head, trying to mask the emotion. "We survived. That's what matters." But deep down, they both knew the fight was far from over. The Black Vipers would return, and the secret of the gold still weighed heavy. And now, with the danger escalating, their forbidden bond became even riskier. Sheriff Hayes arrived amid the aftermath, surveying the damage. "You too," he said, his eyes softening as they met Cole's, "have more courage than most men in this town. But courage alone won't stop Kane. You need a plan, and you need allies." Cole's jaw set. "Then we'll find them, and we'll be ready." As dawn approached once again, Redstone Gulch lay in uneasy silence. Smoke curled from burned-out buildings, horses grazed warily, and the first rays of sunlight cast long shadows over the town. Hearts were bruised but beating. Secrets were buried deeper, and the forbidden love between Cole and Lila burned brighter than ever. Yet threatened by every passing hour, the West was ruthless. And in Redstone Gulch, survival meant more than guns and courage. It meant trust, sacrifice, and the willingness to fight for something worth dying for. The sun had barely climbed over the mesas when Redstone Gulch woke to a restless wind. Dust swirled through empty streets, carrying the scent of smoke from the previous night's battle. The town was alive, but not with cheer. Its heartbeat was fear. Every shuttered window and shuttered saloon door spoke of a community holding its breath, waiting for the next strike. Cole Maddox mounted his horse outside the Hart Ranch. the satchel of gold secured beneath his coat. Lila Hart rode beside him, her eyes sharp and unwavering despite the bruises on her arms and the soot in her hair. Together, they rode toward the canyon edges, a reconnaissance mission meant to locate the Black Viper gang's hideout before it could strike again. "Cole," Lila said, her voice low, "we need a plan. We can't just run them off every time they come." Cole's jaw tightened. "I've been thinking about that. They'll keep coming until they get the gold, and until they do, no one in Redstone Gulch is safe." The terrain around them was treacherous, jagged cliffs, deep ravines, and narrow passes carved by years of wind and rain. Cole led them with a careful eye, knowing that one wrong turn could spell disaster. The silence between them was thick, not with discomfort, but with unspoken words, fear, respect, and a growing bond neither dared to name. As they crested a ridge, the wind carried a faint sound, hooves. Cole signaled Lila to dismount and duck behind a rocky outcrop. Hidden in the shadows, they watched a small scouting party of the Black Vipers moving toward Redstone Gulch, unaware of their presence. "They're testing the waters," Cole muttered. "They'll come back with more men tonight." Lila's hands tightened around her rifle. "Then we need allies. And fast." Cole considered this, eyes scanning the horizon. "There's an old gunslinger in Dry Creek. Name's Silas Kane. Not related to Ryder, though you wouldn't know it from the way folks talk. He hates the Black Vipers more than anyone. Might be willing to help, if we play it right." Lila nodded. "Then we ride tonight." By dusk, they reached Dry Creek, a small settlement of scattered cabins and one rickety general store. Silas Kane, a grizzled man with a missing eye and a long scar running down his cheek, greeted them cautiously. His hands rested on twin revolvers holstered at his hips. "You're Cole Maddox," Silas said, voice gravelly. "Heard tales. You've got trouble, and it follows you like a shadow." Cole tipped his hat. "You heard right. The Black Viper gang's on a spree. They're coming for gold that belongs to the Hart family. I need your help." Silas studied him for a long moment. Then his one good eye glinted. "I don't do favors, Maddox. But I do hate vipers." Lila spoke up, determination in her tone. "Then help us. Redstone Gulch depends on it." Silas grunted, then gestured for them to follow. Plans were whispered in shadows, strategies drawn in dust. By nightfall, they had a course. Intercept the gang before they reached Redstone Gulch. Lure them into a narrow canyon, and use the terrain to their advantage as they rode back toward the valley. Cole and Lila shared a quiet moment under the stars. The night air was crisp, and the smell of sagebrush carried on the wind. "You know," Lila whispered, "I've never felt like this before. Not with anyone." Cole glanced at her, his face softened by the flickering moonlight. "Me neither. Don't let the world, this West, these outlaws, make you regret it." Her eyes met his, and for a heartbeat, there were no guns, no gang, no stakes, just two hearts finding each other in a world that demanded distance. Cole leaned closer, but a distant gunshot echoed across the plains, snapping them back to reality. The Black Viper gang had moved faster than they anticipated. Cole signaled to Silas, who split the group, taking up positions on the canyon's edges. Lila stayed close, rifle ready. The trap was set. Ryder Kane and his gang thundered into the canyon at full speed, confident they were leading prey into a deserted valley. But Cole and Silas were hidden above, sniping and taking careful shots to scatter the gang's ranks. Rocks dislodged by gunfire tumbled down, cutting off escape routes and sending dust clouds into the night. Lila fired from behind cover, picking off stragglers, her aim deadly despite the chaos around her. Bullets whizzed past, striking wood and stone, echoing like a storm in the canyon. The heart of the canyon. Cole confronted Ryder Kane. The outlaw sneered, guns drawn. "You think this canyon will save you?" Kane spat, stepping forward. Cole's eyes narrowed. "It's not the canyon. It's what I'm willing to do to protect people I care about." The showdown was brutal and fast. Cole's revolvers moved with precision, and Kane found himself outmatched despite his cunning. In a final, desperate charge, Kane lunged, only for Silas to intercept, knocking the gun from his hand and pinning him against the canyon wall. "Enough, Kane," Silas growled. "You're done." The remaining gang members, seeing their leader defeated, scattered into the night, their howls of frustration fading into the distance. Cole and Lila emerged from their cover, their bodies tense, adrenaline coursing. Cole's hand brushed Lila's again, a silent acknowledgement that, despite the danger, they had survived together. "You okay?" Cole asked. Lila smiled, weary but triumphant. "Better than okay. We did it." But victory was bittersweet. Redstone Gulch was still vulnerable, and the gold's secret remained a threat. Both knew that the West was not forgiving, and that the next encounter could be even deadlier as dawn broke over the valley. Cole and Lila rode back to Redstone Gulch, hearts still racing, hands brushing occasionally. Stolen moments amid a life of danger. Sheriff Hayes watched from the porch of the sheriff's office, his hat pulled low. "They're stronger together than I'd thought," he muttered. But the West, it always tests the brave and the hearts it touches. And as Redstone Gulch came alive once more, a fragile peace settled over the town. But in the shadows, whispers of revenge grew. Ryder Kane had survived, and he would return. The love between Cole and Lila, forbidden yet undeniable, was about to face its ultimate test. The morning sun struggled to rise over Redstone Gulch, casting long, jagged shadows across the town. The events of the past days weighed heavily on every soul. Buildings were scarred by gunfire. The smell of charred wood lingered, and even the usual clatter of hooves sounded subdued. The West had a way of leaving no one untouched, and in Redstone Gulch, the reckoning was near. Cole Maddox rode into the town square, a hard-set jaw and a restless energy about him. The satchel of gold was safely hidden, thanks to the night in the canyon. But he knew it was only a matter of time before Ryder Kane returned for one final strike. Beside him, Lila Hart rode with a quiet determination that made even the most hardened cowboys pause. The past days had forged them into a team of equals, sharpshooters, strategists, survivors. Their bond, once forbidden and uncertain, had grown into a quiet, unshakable trust. "Cole," Lila said softly, her voice carrying a hint of worry. "If Kane comes back tonight, this could get ugly. We might not all make it." Cole's eyes softened, though his expression remained unreadable. "Then we make sure that if he comes, he regrets it. Redstone Gulch will not fall. Not while we stand." The sheriff, Tom Hayes, stepped up beside them. "I've called every able-bodied man in town. We can't let Kane take what's ours. Tonight, we end this." By dusk, the townsfolk had taken their positions. Barricades were reinforced, rifles loaded, and watch posts stationed on rooftops. Horses snorted and shifted nervously in the corral, and the wind carried a tense quiet across the town. The first sign of danger came with the echo of hooves in the distance, a drumbeat of impending violence. Ryder Kane and the Black Viper gang, bolder than ever, approached Redstone Gulch under the cover of twilight. Their figures were sharp silhouettes against the dying sun, rifles ready and eyes burning with rage. Cole signaled, and the town erupted into controlled chaos. Gunfire cracked across the streets. The townsfolk, inspired by Lila and Cole's bravery, held their ground, pushing back the gang's advance. Smoke and dust filled the air, the night lit by sparks from flintlocks and lanterns. Cole and Ryder Kane faced off in the center of town. Dust swirled around them, the tension between them palpable. Kane's eyes were filled with a mix of fury and obsession, while Cole's bore the calm determination of a man fighting not just for gold, but for something far more precious. "You won't leave this town standing, Maddox," Kane shouted, firing a shot that ricocheted harmlessly off a wooden post. That Cole's revolver moved like lightning, disarming one of Kane's men before the outlaw could react. "You'll find I'm not so easy to run off," he replied, his voice low and steady. Meanwhile, Lila took cover behind the barn, her rifle finding its mark with precision. Each shot disrupted the gang's advance, and she moved from cover to cover like a ghost in the night. Sweat and dust streaked her face, but her focus never wavered. The fight raged for what felt like hours. Cole and Kane exchanged shots, trading words and bullets in equal measure. The townsfolk's courage held, and the Black Viper gang began to falter under the combined might of Redstone Gulch and its unexpected heroes. Finally, the showdown reached its climax. Cole chased Kane into the alley behind the saloon, their footsteps echoing against the wooden buildings. Kane turned, gun raised, eyes blazing. "This ends tonight." Kane snarled. Cole didn't hesitate. A single, swift shot disarmed Kane, sending his gun clattering across the dirt. With one final push, Cole tackled him to the ground. The fight was over. Kane lay pinned, defeated and panting, his gang either captured or fled into the darkness. Cole stood, breathing heavily, as the town slowly emerged from cover. Lila ran to him, her hands brushing his arm. "You did it," she whispered. "We did it," Cole corrected, his eyes meeting hers with a rare softness. In that moment, all the fear, all the danger, melted into relief and a promise unspoken but understood. Sheriff Hayes approached, securing Kane and ensuring the town was safe. "Redstone Gulch owes you both more than words can say," he said, tipping his hat. Samuel Hart stepped forward, placing a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "You've both shown courage beyond measure. And Cole, thank you." Cole tipped his hat to the older man, just doing what had to be done. As dawn broke, the town began to rebuild. The gold remained hidden, safe from those who sought it for greed alone. The scars of battle would take time to fade, but the people of Redstone Gulch felt stronger. United by the shared trial, Lila and Cole stood atop a ridge overlooking the town, the wind carrying the scent of sage and earth. They didn't need words. Their hands found each other, fingers intertwining, hearts beating in quiet harmony. The forbidden nature of their bond was no longer a barrier. It had survived fire, bullets, and blood, and now it could breathe freely. "Redstone Gulch is safe," Lila said softly. "For now," Cole replied, a faint smile breaking through his usually stoic expression. "But whatever comes next, we face it together." The West was wild and unforgiving, but in the heart of Redstone Gulch, two souls had found love amidst chaos, bravery amidst fear, and a promise that even in the harshest lands, hearts could endure days. The sun rose higher, painting the town in golden light. Cole and Lila rode back toward the heart of Redstone Gulch, side by side. The town, once scarred, now held hope, and a story of forbidden love and outlaw secrets that would be told for generations. The guns were quiet. The dust began to settle, and the West, ever harsh, ever beautiful, had witnessed another tale of courage, love, and reckoning.